Okay, and James, you mind starting us off?
Sure. My name is James Foran. I'm the Director of Football Technology at Northern Arizona University out in Flagstaff. I've been here for going into my 10th season this fall. I've been in the business now for, I want to say 17 years. Got started as a student filmer at a Division III school. Literally first day, got handed the camera, told to go film, and that's what got me into this. Spent 2 summers interning with the Bills, a year at Marshall, and since then I've basically been at 2 FCS schools. I was actually a predecessor to Gannon at Furman, and like I said, for the last 10 years I've been the video guy at Northern Arizona.
Okay, great. Go ahead next, Gannon. It's a natural transition. Go ahead.
All right. My name is Gannon Veh. I am the Assistant Director of Football Operations and Video Coordinator at Furman University. I started off right after high school where the Hutchinson Community College head coach basically asked me if I was good with video. I said yes, and he offered me a full academic scholarship to go to Hutch Community College and work on the coaches' film. Kind of same thing as James. They kind of gave me a camera and just started going with it. And then from there, I went to Pittsburgh State, was a filmer there for 2.5 years, for 3 fall seasons. And then after that, I went back home for a year, kind of consider my options. And then after a year, I became a graduate assistant at the University of Akron. And I was up there for 2 seasons when we went to the bowl game down in Boca Raton. And then after that, I got my master's in sports management and then made my way down to Greenville, South Carolina, and now currently reside in my position here at Furman University. I'm entering my 11th season and working in college football.
Great. Go ahead, Jake. Ready?
Yep. How you guys doing? I'm Jake Failla. This is my second year at Albany, going into it. I've been in the industry since 2015 when I was a videographer for JMU. Really didn't know what I wanted to do. I was originally a biotechnology major. Didn't like that, so went to sports management. Got into the football program as a filmer and haven't looked back. I was there for 2 championship seasons, and now I find myself at Albany.
Great. Now go ahead, Mark. Last but not least, might need a
Yeah, you guys. All right. No feedback, right? Okay, cool. So for me, I started at Akron. So back then, I was coming off playing football. We were actually on film, transitioned to video using LSVE. Through LSVE, I get out to Oregon as a GA start, then hired on as assistant because I had to do men's and women's basketball as well as football. Hired on to do football. Head VC when he left to go down to home team advantage with Mike Gleason. Ended up there until head coach left and went to the Rams. Became the first video guy at USC. Eric Espinosa was a student there, so he's still there. And then I went up to had to coach team change. And then since I was not going to be part of football, I took a job with Avid Sports for what is now Exos for that summer up there in Chelmsford. Did some QC there. Ended up at Oregon State, and my way moving back to Ohio, where I was hoping to intern with the Browns in the fall there. Got the job. Eventually got a job with the Browns. Then, actually, before that, I was at Oregon State. Let's say that January, got hired by Amsterdam. 2 days later by the Browns, who recommended me out to 3 teams. So 99 went to the Oilers / Titans because they came to Titans about the day I started. And spent some time there. Went back to Akron in between Oregon and, Titans and the 49ers, where I did 12 years. Was in Akron for 04 for just until I could get that job there in 49ers. Now I'm here, it'll be my 5th season here at Youngstown State.
Great. Now, how many years overall have you been in the industry?
Let's start 1990.
1990.
So about 30 years.
Quite a while, huh? Our most tenured panelists. And then last but not least, a little late addition, but Tony, go ahead.
So I got my start. Well, my dad's a strength and conditioning coach for the New York. He was a strength and conditioning coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And when I was growing up, I wanted to play football and be involved in football. I had an injury that kept me from playing football. And then I went to college. I was like, okay, I got to do something. Try strength and conditioning. Didn't work. Didn't like it. Couldn't do it. Handle it. Found video and interned with Perkins in Jacksonville Jaguars. Went to took a a crappy job with Yale with grad job, but it works. I took that job, left that, went to work for the UFL for a year before they filed bankruptcy. Went to a warehouse, and then Coach Rocco gave me a call at Richmond, and then he brought me from Richmond, Delaware. Overall, it's been about 10 to 11 seasons with video stuff with football. But if you take out of that, my dad's always been involved with NFL, so I've been worked with equipment staffs, over the training staffs. I've worked with strength and coaching staffs for several years since high school. So I've been around a lot of it, but I have not been like Mark bouncing around with video specifically, or James just specifically just with video. So, but yeah.
Great. Thank you all for attending today's panel and being willing to be panelists. Now, the other guys, like I mentioned before this all started, they went way above and beyond even what I thought. Like a bunch of them had PowerPoints and whatnot. I didn't have any expectations. Don't worry about it. But is there anybody that was really kind of burning to talk about a particular topic that they wanted to present while you have this soapbox anyway to talk about? And we can start from there. And then outside of that, I have a set of Q&A questions that I polled my students on, and then everybody can go ahead and answer. But does anybody want to start to talk about something? Go ahead, James.
Yeah. The one thing that this was kind of imprinted on me, just like I said, I started in D3, worked at Group of 5, interned with the NFL, and now at FCS. The term small school, working at a small school, it's not that it bothers me. It's just the job is what you make it. So, like, a lot of us, like, working in FCS, but we've also have experience working at other levels, we run it like we would if we were at an NFL job or a Power 5 job. So the only thing I kind of wanted to stress with this is that there's really no such thing as a small school job. The job is how you treat it and how it treats you. So that's the only thing I really want to get off.
Yeah, I agree with that, because even my time with the Pac-10, it was still wasn't big money coming in. There was no film night at Oregon. There was USC. You had a fundraise to get your equipment. Even at Oregon State, we had to kind of do things on our own. Like USC, we had to run the fiber channel between computers and desktop. We did that at Oregon State. While we did that, we had to go through concrete bricks, cedar bricks, to get that upstairs. And thanks with the, that was just fun there. And then Oregon, they had telephone lines for coaches' connections, and we had to run that one summer. We had to just regular cable down. Here I'm kind of doing some things with equipment install. So some of those things happen too, at the next level up, at least some of the NFL stuff. We've had to do some stuff there too, in-house. So it's like you said, the job is how you make it. We run leaner, meaner, I guess, at this level. Some places you'll find in the NFL, they do the same thing.
Great. I see a lot of nodding. Anybody else have anything to add before I ask a follow-up question, piggybacking off of what James started on? Good. Okay. Continuing off what James started on, what are some common misconceptions about having a smaller program be your first job, or just working in a smaller program?
That we don't know what we're doing.
Go ahead, Tony, one more time.
I feel like people think we don't know what we're doing. It's just my opinion. I mean, like, and especially in the FCS, there's a lot of times where you have new people come in, or it's a coach that's in charge, or like whatever, and us video guys have to work with everyone involved. But then also you get like, oh hey, whose content is this? Well, oh hey, it's a coach. Okay, well he doesn't know what he's doing, so we have to hand feed him. I think it's just a frustrating misconception that people think that, oh, if you're at a small school, you really don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to handle things. And I'll give you an example, like in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, and some of the demos we've had from Exos or DV Sport, or from, well, not from DV Sport maybe, but from, well, I'll take it back. Whoever gives a demo, sometimes they get, well, you're an FCS school, so it's kind of like this, and you kind of expect this. I'm like, okay, I get we have a little bit more less money than other people. Like, we know what we're doing. We're not idiots. We didn't take these jobs because we're idiots. You know, my guy I learned from, Mike Perkins, he said, pretty much showing you gotta love the job and enjoy it, but you become like your handyman. Yeah, become like a jack of all trades. Just fix little things here and there. Some of us are great at, like Mike Lago from JMU, and Duke Fred at Stony Brook. Great with graphics. They really are. I can't do graphics with crap. So my stuff is like mimicking and trying to learn Photoshop off pickup hand. But my point is, we know what we're doing. And I think on that note, I kind of, I mean, it's just me. I kind of like when I look at, like, and this is just related to this, damn it, Clear Sports Video Association. When I look at it, I kind of say, okay, well, this is great and all the stuff we're doing. But I look at every single conference has a representative, and for the FCS, we have one. So, and sometimes, and to me, it seems like, oh, well, you guys are just down there. You're down there. You guys do what you want to do, because you really aren't involved in us. And we really, I don't know. It's a small school mentality that I just don't like, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have the budget, I guess, you know, or we don't have the someone's what they want to call a top level equipment, which I don't know about that. The other thing with me is, you know, well, your coaches don't, you know, they're newer coaches, you know, they maybe don't know something. I mean, you know, my coaching staff came from an FBS school, who were at a bigger FBS school. They know what they're doing. They know what they need out of that product. And so, you know, me asking, hey, how do I get this? Oh, you guys don't need that. You know, that's one thing. I mean, that's from the vendor. And that was just, you know, and I think it was just because of maybe that coaching staff and maybe that whatever they needed. And I had, you know, we need stuff based on the coaching staff. And I get that, you know, we can only get what we get because you can only pay for some stuff. But it's like you're saying, we know what we're doing.
Yeah, I think part of it's just the conception or the perception in general of like FCS or Group of Five. It's kind of like the same thing as like the public season. It's if you're not USC, Notre Dame, Alabama, you're D2. So it's more of a perception issue. Like heck, like for example, the Savvies that we do, like the awards, like for the highlight videos, Kennesaw State, who is an FCS school, like their stuff has been as good as stuff from like Colorado or Penn State or whatever, but it comes down to a perception.
Yeah. Okay. Now, again, we're not here to throw firebombs at everybody, right? But we're here to give the realities of what it is, right? What I kind of want to know is, what can the industry do, or what can we do for each other to help combat that?
Personally, in my opinion, I think like the GAs and the students that come from the FBS schools, I think it should be like not a requirement, but it should be recommended at some point for these kids coming out to work at these smaller schools, whether it be like a Division III or an NAIA or an FCS, just to see what it's like when you don't have that unlimited budget that some of these bigger schools tend to have. I mean, in my opinion, and this is just my experience, working at those lower levels has made me more flexible, like in my thinking and in how I go about problem solving for certain coaches or certain things that come up. I don't know if anyone else has had that experience as well.
Yeah. For me down here at Furman, where my title is Assistant Director of Operations and Video Coordinator. So not only am I doing coaching stuff, but like we have a fundraiser where one of my primary job for the deal is going out in the community and say, ask for donations, like get gift cards and stuff like that. So it's like, so I'm doing a little bit more than what a typical video coordinator would be doing, trying to promote the program, but also help the program out in fundraising for the program for the year. One of the things for the fundraising is paying for our coaches software for the year, which we get from former alumni and then people around the community and help along with that. So what I've kind of learned is that if you do work at a smaller school, but you have to be able to do what you need to do and get it done. That's the biggest thing. And the only thing small is that you're going to have to do a lot of things by yourself. But one of the things I've struggled with for a while is ask for help. Because there's sometimes, when you go to these bigger schools saying, I can do it. But the reality is that you are still developing as a professional in the field. And sometimes you're going to have to ask for help to do that. And it's okay to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. In some areas, if you're not good in, ask for help.
Now, sorry, piggybacking off of that a little bit, Gannon. I know Jake and yourself, you have built in your titles that you're the assistant director of ops and the video coordinator. Jake, can you go into a little bit about your experience when it comes to that and some of the difficulties that it takes to juggle two jobs, or whether it's some of you guys may do the graphics, right? Like Tony mentioned, or might be the post-production guy and I don't know, run snack at the end of the night. Talk a little bit about the difficulties of multitasking a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm a jack of all trades over here. I do the graphics, the coach's video, DFO, make sure everyone has post-game meals, all that. What I've realized is you got to manage. Time management is huge, and kind of putting your trust in your students. They can hand out sandwiches. You don't need to be there handing out stuff like that. But that's definitely been one of the big things, trusting my students. I've taught all my students who are brand new coming in, and one knows how to import the Dragonfly and all that. They all know how to upload successfully and all that. So it's really, because one person can't do it all. You'll to quote Ron Swanson, never half-ass two things, whole-ass one. So I put faith in my guys, and they definitely helped me out a lot.
Great, and it's funny too because Jake actually took over the spot that I previously had at Albany, so we can empathize that you go through a lot of pain and crap and long nights because you're doing essentially three jobs in one, right? Whether it's recruiting, operations, video, and people have to know that even though it's not within your title, that you need to do whatever it takes to survive in the industry, to not just have a job, but to have a career, right?
Right.
Now, here's what I want to follow up with is, what are some of your best stories or some things when it comes to being flexible with a financial budget, to keep it politically correct? What are the most creative ways that you've had to work around a limited budget?
I hate to say it, I've had to go buy stuff out of my own pocket. but little things. It's things that we need to. I need something to hang a projector. I need something to do this, or I just need an extension cord. I just like, well, the time I try to go through somebody upstairs, I can go to Home Depot and get it myself because I know they're not going to say yes.
I am a bit of a frequent flyer at our local Home Depot and also our campus surplus. Like I've bought a bunch of things from our campus surplus that I've ended up using, even if it's stuff that it originally wasn't meant to be used that way. But yeah, you gotta stretch whatever you can, and sometimes like for a budget item on my budget, like I've taken that money from that budget instead of just getting that one item, use it to buy like 3 or 4 different things that I've needed in my department.
So when I first arrived in Richmond, we were redoing all the football offices. And they kind of said, "Oh, hey, here's your office." And I said, "Oh, cool. What's in it?" After it was done, walked in there as everything was in boxes, and then I found there's a wooden desk sitting there, flimsy wooden desk. I was like, "Cool. Where's the rest of it?" "That's it." "Huh?" So they were replacing all the old desks in the coaches' offices and storing them down the hallway. Grabbed a hand truck when no one was there, went down the hallway, took the desks that I wanted, make sure they were what I wanted, took them apart, put them together, make L-shaped, nice big desks, rolled them into the office and stood them all up and got rid of the crappy ones. Then I went to Walmart, figured out what I wanted, say, I'm going to buy this, got my Pro card, click, this is cheap, that's cheap, that's cheap, put it all together. Next time my advisor walked in, she goes, "Tony, say please next time." Like, okay. It's like ask forgiveness for it later. Just go take care of what you gotta do, get it done, and ask sorry later. Oh, and then fiasco buying stuff. I know we all know this. Betsy is a lifesaver. We were one of the people that I guess I thought I was a guinea pig because I had West Virginia calling me. We bought the new Panasonics when they first came out, those new AG whatevers for TV Sport. And TV Sport's ranting and raving that they were supposed to replace the what were they, the 160s or whatever. I was like, okay, fine, bought them. Went to go use them. Return policy already expired. They sucked. So I called Betsy. Betsy goes, "Hey, I'll find you something. We have these 2 cameras that were sitting like as floor models or like as show things. You okay with that?" "Sure. Whatever you got, the cheapest thing that works." And they worked. So it's whatever you gotta do to get the job done, whatever it is. But yeah, putting desks together was probably my thing.
Yeah, kind of along with you guys both saying, like when I got here, they're on 170 cameras and AG8s. But they also had 4x3 monitors doing HD. And one year, the second year I was here, I was able to get a camera, but was able to say, listen, let's hold off on the camera because they work. Let's get some monitors that work for our coaches. So sometimes you have to be creative. And like, hey, there's a need for something. Like you're saying, can I use this line item for these things?
Yeah, I know one thing that was here when I first got here. We had some Panasonic HMC 40s. I still use one of the 40s in a pinch, like when we have to film like multiple things for highlights or practice. Like just you don't always need to get the latest and greatest. If something works, use it.
Great. Anybody else? Gannon?
Last season, my great story was our director of operations resigned 2 weeks into fall camp. So let's just say last season was a little bit of a stretch when you're trying to go an entire football season without a director of operations to work on hotels and transportation, food and stuff like that throughout the entire season. So we all had to do a little bit more last season than we would normally do last year, but still managed to get the job done. And
Great. Now, continuing on this line, I don't know how many of you caught the college video coordinator survey that comes out every year, salary survey. To say it's disappointing is to say the least of it, right? And that's even at the higher levels. But can anybody comment a little bit on why this financial disparity in the industry exists so much? I mean, this is just also, again, my opinion, but I mean, you got strength coaches making now 6 figures. You got athletic trainers that got some juice. What contributes to why the whole industry feels like it's being vastly underpaid to do the job that they do?
Let me give you a quick story. Hold on, James. My dad was a part of the strength and conditioning group. There's a book, Golden Years. It's about strength and conditioning back when probably around in the industry where you was our time, I guess you could say, young in the whatever. And they made less than what we're making right now. Like dirt cheap. They were not getting squat. I think it's just exposure, and it's people realizing the importance of your role. Strength coaches are making tons of money now because people are realizing they're like another head coach, and having the right people in the right places with the right influence can drastically change and benefit your program. So I think the gap is there for us because I think a lot of people see the video job as like, hey, and no offense to Jake or Gannon, because I'm not saying this, some people see it as, hey, it's another GA job. I can put an operations guy there. I can put someone else there, someone to do an assistant job, someone to do this, someone to do that. And it's they don't see the role as being as important as some schools do. Some schools pay 6 figures to guys that may or may not deserve it. Who gives a care? I don't care. But I don't think every coach sees our role as being important and vital to the organization.
I remember at a CSVA conference a couple of years ago, Craig Campanozzi from, at that time, Florida State, said it as this: video guys are necessary, but we're not important. Again, like as Tony said, it's a perception. Unfortunately, it is a perception that you can plug anybody into this job. I mean, heck, at the FCS level, there are 2 conferences I can think of off the top of my head where there is not a full-time video guy or even a graduate assistant video guy. It's a coach, usually a GA coach who's handling the video duties. Unfortunately, it's unfortunate now that because everything in our field is becoming more and more digitally based and more technologically based, that's still the perception. But unfortunately, it is. So until that perception changes, and it's like Tony said, we need a coach who is willing to push for it. Until there's a coach with clout that is willing to push for that, unfortunately, that pay gap is still going to be there.
Yeah, my take to a little bit of that is, I mean, when I was at Oregon, I was in the high 20s. I left. They couldn't find anyone to come in for that. The guy that had left to go to home team advantage came back, Stu Reynolds, kind of left home team advantage when it wasn't going to come out. He wanted more, and rightly so. He deserves it. He got it. I think a lot of times, like, coaching salaries all ballooned once everyone started getting TV contracts. But yeah, it's definitely, you know, how management coaches see you. I know that there's some guys living in places that should be getting paid more that don't get paid more. It's because of the cost of living. And that's the other issue that can come in is here, you know, it doesn't cost that much to live. So what you're making and then what you made other places too kind of, you know, screws your head. But yeah, I mean, sometimes we don't get paid for skill. That's for sure. And I've seen some very high end zone coming from the league that couldn't even see the linebackers. So I'm not quite sure what's going on.
And I think something I think that doesn't get emphasized enough, and what we try to do a lot of, and that's promoting filming positions to freshmen, to incoming freshmen from high school, because we need filmers, and everyone here will say, I would love to have a filmer for 4 years. But majority of the time, that's not going to happen because we don't get, and it's again with the perception where I try to go to a career fair and I ask them, can I get a table to look at to say, you know, I want to promote jobs on the football team. And that's from equipment managers, athletic training, to video and to graphic design. I was like, I want to be here, tell them the time they want. And I was basically said, we don't have room. Where I went to that career fair and there were five tables that were empty. So it's, and it's almost like in the school, and it's almost kind of like a school thing that in perception is like, they don't think like our job is important, or like our job is important and we want to get students involved so they can have something that they can do in college. Because there's a lot of places, there's not a whole lot to do in college. And with this, it kind of helps it along, and it can even enhance their college experience.
Yeah, in my experience, especially in Oregon, because Oregon board of directors at the higher end set scale for pay. So Oregon State, I maybe made the top of the pay list, but that was that they're going to pay. You know, same thing with a lot of those states. You know, they're setting, and again, they need to be told what it is. But they set the pay at the high and low end for however that goes.
Now, bouncing off of that, do you think? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So when I was a filmer at JMU, we always joked about how the video team was hashtag in the shadows, and it really is. You're in the shadows. You're not seen, but you're doing maybe one of the most important things on the team, making sure everyone has that film. They study from that. They learn from that. So I'm not really sure how that pay discrepancy can be fixed, but it is what it is right now. But hopefully we can fix that.
No, that's that's a good point, Jay. I think who said it? Bill Sisler from UMass said that in the totem pole structure, we're actually lower than the totem pole. We're actually the dirt that holds the totem pole up, which is a really funny way of putting it. But yeah, no, we're the foundation of everything. If film doesn't get filmed at practice or games, you know, coaches can't teach the players, and if players aren't prepared to go out and play, then you know, who knows what results you get, but most of the time it's going to be losses. And careers are decided from wins and losses as well, right? And the thing is, people don't really perceive that on the media is that, oh, well, this head coach, you know, wins and loses like this many times or wins this many times. But there's so many lives that are affected just based off of whether somebody wins or loses, right? That's outside of just that coaching staff as well. And I think that's important for people to know. Now, I've heard some ideas being thrown around, and I just wanted your thoughts on potentially a certification for what we do. Do you think that's a possibility? You think it's worth it, et cetera? So what's kind of your thoughts of being certified to be able to do this? How it would help the industry, or whatever your thoughts are on?
I think a certification would help. The only issue, well, I wouldn't say it's the only issue, but I would say the biggest issue for that is just in our field alone, the sheer number of different editing systems kind of precludes the ability for a single certification. I mean, for like our coaches, it's really only one way to do things, like when it comes to coaching. So yeah, that certification, it's a little more standardized. Whereas in our field, I mean, I know I'm Exos. I know Mark, you're DV Sport, right? Tony, I think you're DV Sport as well. In fact, I think I might be the only Exos guy on this call. But I mean, you have Exos, you have DV Sport, you have Huddle, if you include the other sports, you have Game Breaker, you have Synergy. I mean, there's so many different editing systems out there, and also different ways of filming every sport. I mean, I film not just football, I film soccer, I film basketball, I film volleyball. I mean, it's kind of difficult to have just a standard certification for what we do when there's so many different variables in the job.
Yeah, I mean, I spent most of my career on Exos. I mean, I was there when it went from LSVE to Avid Sports to Pinnacle to Exos. But you have to get experience on something, because what happened, I got here, I kept this, I knew Brian Lowe. I kept in touch with those guys. Every time I got to see him meeting and stuff, I always kind of kept my eye on what they were doing. I never really kind of sat down in front of it, which would have been nice at these CSVAs, or you can go get a tutorial or something. But just the experience I had was, I got here, I had to learn DV Sport. You know, I knew what needed to get the coaches, how it looked. It was a matter of figuring out how it goes through that pipeline, the workflow. So that's where, you know, being able to sit down and on the editing systems, you know, what's available, like Huddle, like, you know, I can't, you know, I just use that for something else. But and then the other thing too is, you know, camera work. You know, I think one of the things that everyone supposedly has to know is sunny 1/64th or 1/16th, cloudy 1/16th, that kind of stuff. But I try to teach my kids the whys of that, of, hey, you know, your f-stops matter. You know, if it's 11, get ready to go and change. If it's around 4, get ready to go and change. So there's that part of learning, you know, just how the camera works. It's one thing when I got into this, I took a summer photography class at Akron just to learn that stuff.
Great. Anybody else? Sorry, I didn't mean to get right in front of you, Mark, but Jake is also Exos, James, if you didn't know. Yep. Now, I just want to preface all this as well, is that we're not just trying to complain about like how much we make or whatever, right? Just know that we went into this industry knowing that we're not going to, you know, be wiping our ass with $100 bills, you know, at the end of the day. We're here because we love the sport and we love what we do, and we get a lot of meaning out of it as well, before we get fireballs thrown at us. Now, my next question will go towards.
Hey, Jimmy.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Just to comment on what James said. Where does certification help? Sure. You know, maybe certification makes something standardized, nationalized. Maybe we can find something that is specific to what we do and not as broad as what it really is. Because like what James said, when I was at Richmond, I took care of all sports. And I mean, requiring someone that only works football at one school to understand what happens on every single sport is one thing. But even when James said, when you talk about recording for different sports, really, it's really like cutting football in half. Like if you take all the stuff you do for football and you dumb it down, that's how it really works for a lot of other sports. But I think a certification would help, because then it would require someone to have a basic understanding or some understanding before they walked into a place blind. And then FCS guys or conference guys have to train and teach and, you know, mold the new guy into what needs to be. If there was a certification they could take to say, hey, you're certified to do this job. There's a freaking certification for equipment guy to tell you how to change the laundry. Okay, so we could probably figure out something that could say, hey, here's a certification how to be a video person. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, and also why I can wholeheartedly agree with you, Tony, is that when I was in the CAA, and Jake's with you right now, is that you always did a good job of at least getting the CAA to have a lot of standardized different things, right? Especially when it came to just some as simple as naming conventions, because when you get to the, you know, lower levels than even us, like NAIA or etc., like it's almost the Wild West. Like you guys know, like if you're playing a lower level opponent, D2, D3, like you might have a part-time video guy, whatever, or somebody who that might not care too much. You're getting every which way of crappy film, right? So I think we need to have something. That's just my opinion. Not nothing. Definitely have something, at least for the football aspect. Now, yeah, go ahead, Gen. Go.
Yeah. and so it's kind of like along with that. But when you look at all the job applications that are out there, a lot of them ask for a master's degree. Like in a lot of jobs, like when I got the job here at Furman, a master's degree was required. Now, it wasn't in video, but have some type of a master's degree. So like, and for a lot of people would agree that, again, a master's degree is harder than getting a certification, like training for DB sport. Again, a master's is harder because it's a lot of alone time where you're trying to study up on a subject. And now you kind of see almost every single college position, unless you don't know a coach or someone at that school, when they look at resumes, if you don't have a master's, you don't have a chance.
And I agree on that one. And I mean, the hard part, like for me, I don't have a master's degree. I went from my undergrad straight to Yale because it was a job and I need a job. So I went from undergrad straight to Yale. So, and then I tried to go to Oklahoma at one point after that, but the master's program just didn't work out. I didn't get the right score. So that's what's hard too. Like you go, oh, hey, I want this job. Well, that job's open. Master's degree preferred. Okay. If I don't have a master's degree, I'm screwed. Doesn't matter how much experience I have. Doesn't matter how much you do. I think that one of the funniest interviews I've ever had was UConn. They said, all right, so you know, master's degree, that's fine. What do you know about UConn? You guys have good basketball, and you're the Huskies, and you're in Connecticut. Well, what else do you know about an academic structure and this and that? I was like, huh? So, yeah, if you don't have a master's degree like me, you get the dumb, crazy, random questions and interviews that really kind of screw you over. But that's my.
Great. Anybody else? Good? All right. I want to try to touch on something a little bit back on what you guys said about if the world was perfect, you would have some of these younger Power 5 students and GAs try to come down and work at lower levels, right? Now, what I want you guys to do is try to help build a sales pitch for working at a smaller program, whether it's FCS or below. Yeah, give us some of the benefits.
You're going to be working hand in hand with your coaches. You're going to be able to build a relationship with them. You're going to be able to build your program the way you see fit. You're going to be able to choose your students.
Good. Who else?
You're going to learn a lot. And you're going to learn it the hard way, the way you need to learn it. You're not going to be hand-fed. You're not going to be spoon-fed. No one's going to hand it to you unless you're in the CA and I call and drill it into your head. Or if, I call your XOs guy for you or support guy for you and have them call you. But you're going to learn and you're going to develop. I think if you come down a level, you'll realize that you have to work with things with your hands. And it's something you need to learn to be better. You can't just walk into a program and have a hand fed to you because you don't learn, you don't gain experience. And you're going to realize what it's like to not have student workers and work around it and develop and adjust. You really just it doesn't just help you professionally, it helps you personally. The ability to adjust to any situation you run into. All right, right now I've had some issues with my house and some leaks and some other things. You just learn to, hey, I can just go out there and just do it and fix it myself. You can adjust and develop and grow. And I think working at a level really will help you develop as an individual.
Yeah, I mean, you come down to this level, you're gonna be working a lot more on the system. You're covering all three sides of the ball. You're not just worried about one side of the ball. So you're gonna have to kind of know the coaches, know what to do on offense, but they're thinking how they do stuff. You're gonna get a chance that I just get a text message. Oh, great. So yeah, just the other thing too is your vendor. They're going to always try to promote you, but you always have to be trying to find a way to learn the other vendors, depending which one you're on. They like to have guys that can work their stuff really well. So the more you can get on something, more you play with it. At this level, you got young coaches going up somewhere, and I mean, John Gruden brought the guy from Tennessee to be the head guy at the Raiders for a reason. So there's those chances too, even better at this level. Sometimes you may run into a thing where a Bo Pelini comes down, and now he could be recommending you for some other jobs too. And then you probably have a better chance to talk to recruit or scouts who they see your video. If it's good, they're going to tell people.
I think also it's going to make you more well-rounded because you're not going to be able to just focus on a certain thing. Like you're going to have to develop as a highlights guy, as a recruiting guy, as a coach's video guy. And it's also, like for a lot of us, it's going to give you experience dealing with other sports, other entities outside of football. It's going to make you get out of your bubble.
Piggybacking on James, I think you'll develop skills maybe you didn't even know you had. I was not a Photoshop whiz and still don't consider myself is, but I've gotten better and across it. I was given at JMU when Zach Lance went to Pitt, I was given Final Cut Pro and was like, here, learn video editing. So I took the summer, learned it, came back and did it for the fall. At a small school, you're going to have to dip your hand in a little bit of everything. But I think that makes you a more well-rounded person and develops your skills.
I think, and to kind of phrase it all up, at a smaller school, you can be somebody instead of being a number. Because if you go to some of these bigger programs, there's over 16 students, and your name can get lost. People may know who you were. But if you go to a smaller school, and if you're there every day, someone's going to learn your name. And that's the biggest thing, is for someone to get to know your name.
And, piggybacking off of all of you being at the program that I am now, and it's funny because Jake and I share war stories all the time about our previous, his current and my previous employer. If you're prepared to be flexible with those lower budgets, right, at the lower levels, then when you come up to some of these programs, we know the grass isn't always greener just because you wear a particular logo too, right? And for example, here, I'm not saying that there isn't awesome opportunities and we don't put out awesome stuff here at Buffalo, but I'm really glad that I had my experience at Albany, because we're putting together stuff right now with chewing gum and paper clips and MacGyvering stuff as well. And just know that big time is wherever you are too, right? And that was actually what James pretty much started off as. When you go somewhere, make it your own, just like you guys are saying, and you have a chance to build it from the ground up as well. Right? So I appreciate all those sentiments. Now, as we get closer and closer to wrapping it up, I want you to respect your guys' time as well. I like to ask always a couple introspective questions for you guys before we all get out of here. When it comes to relationships and networking, what's the best way to go about it if you want to network with other people above your level?
I think I can start off with that. I was lucky when I was a GA. I worked with Brad Helton at Marshall, and he stressed going to the convention at CSVA, especially when unfortunately I was let go from Furman due to budget cuts. The thing with CSVA, especially like dealing with guys from the upper levels, it's don't just hang out with them like at the meetings, like hang out with them like at the banquet or at the social gatherings that are at last year at Anaheim when we went to that place right across from the Angel Stadium. I sat with Ken Norris from UCLA for a good half hour. And also, actually, my first convention, I ended up playing poker with some of the old timers, as you could probably call them. Like the stuff like that, like hang out with those guys. You make a good impression. You talk to them like as a human being, because guys don't want to be treated like a Rolodex. It's like, for reference, push one. Like that's going to help you more than just being like in the meetings with these guys, just trying to learn stuff. It's like getting to know people as a person on a personal level. That's going to help you more than anything.
One thing I think I missed that we don't have when we had my early days was usually had a users convention, and that's the time where, I remember being in Fort Lauderdale for LSVE, and I'm hanging out with myself, and I was at Oregon, and we've got Perkins, and just some of those guys from the NFL there were there. You're starting to talk and bullshit with each other. So that level of networking, usually came from the users conference. I wish if there's a users conference, something like that, it would be open to anybody. I don't know if like DV Sport has their boot camps. Exos has a thing in Vegas. I don't know if unless you're a user, I get them not inviting you to a dinner or something, but getting out there and networking and being able to go to these users conferences kind of give you a chance to meet people and stuff like that. Especially if you're a student, you're not technically committed to any one platform.
I think something that will actually help out is ask someone who you kind of know, that you kind of work with a schedule, ask them a question. Because there's sometimes, but the majority of the time, if you have a question, someone else probably is going through the same thing. So you're going to have to, so one thing to get to know someone is ask them how they deal with something, and then try to incorporate that kind of like what you're doing. Like say if a camera goes broken, more likely there's going to be someone else that's using that same camera. So you would ask someone, how do you fix this segment? If they don't, they're going to reference you to someone else who has that particular camera. So sometimes it's hard things. It's just ask questions.
Great. Anybody else? Good. Great. Now imagine yourself day one walking into a video office, whether you're a VC or a student or anything like that. What would you tell your former self?
Don't drink so much coffee. Go to sleep. And sleeping in your desk is not a good habit to develop. But if you do, get a comfortable, expensive mattress and enjoy it. And get a cheap foam thing for the top of your mattress and get a nice pillow. But yeah, James, yeah. And keep it in your office. If you don't have a big enough office, don't worry. There's this thing called a coach's lounge. Or if you're lucky enough, you have a key to the head coach's office. Just open the door and go sleep in there, or sleep in the gym. You're in a building where no one's going to exist at 4 a.m. in the morning. Go find somewhere comfortable, cool, or warm, depending upon your weather, and get some sleep.
Or you have a key to the press box too.
What's up?
Or if you have a key to the press box as well.
Yeah, that too. But that was my mistake when I went to Yale. I knew nothing. I knew XOs. I walked in there and I said, oh, crap. And Mitch Wilkins was my godsend. And that's the other thing. Whoever your support is, whenever you first start, they're your godsend, and you just love them and praise them. And even if they're not the company, keep in touch with them, because they're the ones that are going to keep you alive.
I have to agree with you on that sleeping. I had a Nest, just a big old down thing. Just because you have meetings Friday night and you have a game that's Saturday, sometimes Saturday night, there's no reason to sleep in your office Sunday night. Go home. One thing I'm trying to get through to the GA at Akron is, like you're saying, reach out when there's a problem. Don't try to fix it yourself. It's just never good to, if you have a resource, use the resource. You don't look bad using the resource. It may look worse you not using.
And one thing I would tell my younger self, don't be afraid to screw up. I mean, we all don't know how to do everything the first time. Like that, it's a learning experience. And don't be afraid to screw up. And also, don't be afraid to speak up when you think somebody is doing it wrong. Like, we don't know the answers to everything. If we did, we would be making a lot more money than we are.
One thing I would say to my younger self, get out more. There's more to life than football, which you're telling yourself, I know you love football. That's why you're here. But you don't need to be in the football office for 12 hours a day. You're going to do that plenty of times, I assure you. Find a friend that you have the same particular interest in and get out of the office. Fortunately for me, I have a lot of coaches that love to play golf, and we play golf once a week. Just get out of the office. Don't do anything. Don't think of anything football related. Just get out.
You kind of went along one serious thing about, I would say something to my younger self is something our head coach did for our, new coaches here. Some guys' first job is, you're going to retire at some point. You better start retiring when you're 25, 26, rather than worrying about it. Because as a young guy, you're going to be moving around a lot. You're going to move from school to school. You may not be there full time for 5 years. You may not get vested. You need to learn how to transfer. If you're moving around within one state, great. If you're moving from different states, okay. But you need to, learn that. Ask somebody, your coach, what it's like to move around, how you move around your retirement. That's one thing that we had a big meeting on here with just our young coaches. You don't want to be sitting around going, well, I get to retire at 65, and realistically, you're not retiring for a while.
And to play off what Gannon said, your co-OC will always come in when you least expect it. And when you want to go work out or you want to go to lunch, they're always going to walk in the door. And if I had to say, the other thing I say is pick a time. Like Gannon said, the office, but pick a specific time that you're not going to be there. Make sure coach knows and make that your time that you go do what you need to do. And make consistent. So they know that time, Tony, Gannon, Jimmy, James, they're not there. They're not there. And so they know that that's your time to be out of the office, left alone, and do the things you have to do.
And one thing, and this is something my current head coach has stressed to all the coaches, young, old, and everybody. Don't guard your desk. Like, if it's 4 o'clock and you don't have anything else, go home. Like, you're not going to get bonus points for guarding your desk. That's probably one of the benefits of working at a smaller school is you don't have that expectation that you're going to be chained to your station.
Yeah, I mean, that was Bo's thing, work and get out. And I remember the first time I did that, guys were still in their office. I went to everyone, hey, you guys good? You good? They're like, yep. I'm like, I walked out that door and their coaches here. And I was like, all right, someone's going to call me, no big deal. But it just felt like I was abandoning something. I was like, oh my God, am I going to get in trouble? Like, is this going to be on my record to get fired or something?
Jake, I know that it hasn't been super long, right, since you've been in the industry, like comparatively to the other guys. But, you being at Albany your first year, is there anything you want to reflect on your first year there as comparatively, like you going in your second year? Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll definitely be taking some of that advice from you guys. I think the big thing is, like, if you're done for the day, you can go home. You don't need to stay, because hopefully it won't happen now, but when you have to upload a game to Dragonfly after an away game at JMU, and you get back at 12, and then you're uploading till 2 a.m., just on that Thursday that you're done around 4, let's go. I think that's one of the things I'll take away.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing too is learn the tools you have, especially now that we've gone through COVID. That just really opened the door for more coaches thinking that helps us out. But the tools that are available for your edit system, whether it's auto ingest, auto resolver, things like that can make your life a lot easier. There was times I wish we had this when I'd be doing laundry, the laundromat, and the coach would call me and have to come back in. But that was with those times.
Last question, and a little bit more serious reflection one, especially those that have worked through a bunch of years, right? What have been some of your biggest sacrifices giving back to the industry or just working through the industry? Try to give some of these younger guys the reality of what it possibly takes to work and have a career.
One thing for me was, as you get older, people start to die and stuff. And I had an uncle that passed away. Fortunately, I was able to get to leave and go up to attend his funeral. That happened to be on a Monday. So I was able to fly up, or I drove up that night from Nashville to Cleveland. Spent the night, did what I had to do, but ended up on a plane and back at work by 8 o'clock that night. Then out in the West Coast, my aunt passed away living out there. Couldn't afford to come back, and it was middle of the season anyway, so there's nothing I could do there. So, always take the time to be with family. If you have in your own, make sure you take that time for sure. Those grinders, us grinders kind of have to remind ourselves not to do that.
Yeah, I know for me, all of my family is in the New York City metropolitan area. So I'm on the other side of the country from them. And 2018 season, we got to Sacramento to play UC Davis. I get out of our meetings the night before, and I get a call from my brother saying that father had passed. And thankfully, my head coach at the time, as soon as I told him, first thing he said to me was, "Get on a plane. Get on a plane back to New York." Thankfully, I didn't miss. The only game I missed was the UC Davis game. Game the following week ended up getting canceled because of wildfires. But the hardest part, especially if you're a young guy, I'll still recommend it. I mean, don't be afraid to travel, but that's one of the drawbacks. You're going to be away from family. I can only see my family once a year, maybe at Christmas. I mean, unfortunately, that's part of the job, but it is a regret.
I've missed out, kind of like Mark and James. I've missed out on three funerals. Most of my grandparents, but we're really close to them. And head coach said, "Do you have to go?" I'm like, this thing to realize, your head coach is not always gonna be as sensitive as James' head coach, where they're gonna say, "Hey, you need to go." Some of them are gonna try to bait you into staying. And the biggest sacrifice you're gonna make is your time. Even now with having a 2-year-old son and me and my wife, right when I got married, I walked right into Richmond office when I got married, and my time with my wife, my new wife, and time, it goes away, and you really don't have a lot of it. You gotta make the best of it, what you got, and I think sacrificing time is the hardest thing. And you want to be with your family, want to do stuff, but it sucks. I mean, for us, the most time we get off here is June. You get June off. You might get a week at Christmas time if you're lucky, depending if we made the playoffs or not, but most time it's June. And sometime in June is your vacation. And that's it. I think, and then financially, like for me, my wife is from Poland, and the ability for us to go home and see her family is because of finances is slim. So we go every few years when we can. It gets harder now that we have a son. So it's just a reality that as much as you gotta love this job and want to do it, but you're gonna sacrifice your time and your money, and you just gotta make use of what you have because there's not a lot of free time for yourself.
Yeah, one thing too is, job related. Don't count on coaches. A lot of coaches recommending you for jobs. A lot of times they don't, or not that they won't. Sometimes they just can't expect that. And don't expect them. Don't if they really like you, they'll tell you that. Hey, especially if they're going someplace else. I can't take you or something like that. But at the same time, if there's a job out there you want, you take a chance, go for it. But make sure let your head coach know that you're going for that. Before you put the resume in, because there's he may call and you don't want to surprise somebody. Because if they're good, they don't want to lose you. They'll do what they can to keep you, and if they can't, they'll help you out. But don't expect them to take you someplace or promise you something when they leave. It's very rarely happened to me, and it's fortunate that's how I got here to Youngstown. But
Great. Gannon or Jake?
Just one of the things with me, like I missed out on my grandfather's funeral when I was up in Akron, and it was in the middle of fall camp, and I was like, I was going to be able to do it, but then my parents have told me, said, we don't expect you to come. So it's something like my parents figured out, like I made an investment on the career path that I'm on, and because he passed away on Sunday and the funeral was Wednesday. And for me, like if I was going to get out there, it's going to take me 2 days to get there. And it's also, and as it kind of helps, is having a family support, your intermediate family support of your job, of your career choice, and having them behind your back saying for support. There's been many nights where I've kind of talked to my parents about like what's going on, because they've gone through the same thing where they had to kind of, not in video, but like in their own profession, kind of try to grow. And if you're fortunate enough, you can learn a couple things from them on how to handle certain stuff. And I'm kind of been like them, where I moved around a little bit when around my age. So you just kind of learn from them and kind of learn from their mistakes, and hopefully you would do a little better. But one of the big things is just be able to see family. And just like everyone else, I may see family in person 3 times a year. And that's summer and Christmas. Maybe spring break if we have a little bit of time, but we get done with spring ball on time. But and then when you do visit family, nothing else. Because this last time when I went home for 2 weeks, I was on a computer half the time. Just if you're there for family, be there for family, and don't be afraid to tell your coaches, I can't work.
It's some of about caring for family. This happened to me 2 years ago. When your wife's giving birth, turn off the computer. It doesn't matter if you're I'm being dead serious on this. Y'all laugh. I'm being dead serious. Head coach got mad because another coach on staff had a son a few months earlier, and he was only there for 20 minutes. The guy had like 4 other kids. He didn't need to see the other ones, stay and wait. It's my first son, my first kid, and our head coach got mad that I wasn't there. But he supported me. But our quality control, no, our DFO goes, Tony, they're asking me, I know you need your kid, I know things going on. Is the video okay? I'm trying to import while I'm at the high. Can I just do this tomorrow? They want to watch it now. Just turn off the damn phone. That's what I should have done. And that's my biggest thing. Like when you have the time, or like it's an important moment, like your wife's giving birth for your first kid or second kid, third kid, you need to be there to support them. And the sad reality is you just gotta say screw everyone else. But I didn't do that, and I tried, and I ended up turning off my phone. But yes, that's the reality, is that even those moments, even though they're the most precious, even though the most like the first time you can experience something, someone's gonna be there to call you and try to bug you to get you to do something. Just turn off your phone and say, Coach, I'm taking this day, and see you. But
Jake, anything that you want to add? I know you're in a different part of life than some of these other guys, but I mean, you and I could probably empathize on a lot of things that'll end us.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, even in my young career, I had someone pass away, and I couldn't make it to the funeral because of that, and that was really hard for me. It was my grandmother, and I couldn't. That was hard. It was the sacrifice that we all kind of have to take, but I didn't know what to do. I kind of questioned my career and all that, but talking with you guys, I got to put some things first, even if it's before the job.
And not to just keep on this particular show, I'm going to take it in a particularly different light because I'm a little bit younger, just like Jake, is that it's kind of hard also seeing the people that you grew up with and went to college with and whatnot. So some of the older guys that I've experienced with say that they're retiring in their 20s to the 30s, right? Living up life and traveling and, you know, you going to parties, going to raves or whatever it may be. You know, it's as much as I love this profession, you can't not say that it's a little hard watching people that you grew up with and people that are around your age experience things that you might never ever get the chance to. But you also have to think of it the other way. You know, they're never going to experience what we experience as well, right? There's, I would venture to say, less than 1% of people that can do what we can on this planet, right? Even less than that. So I wanted to end almost on a good note. I know we went a little bit longer than I said, but what makes everything all worth it to you? That's the last question. What makes everything that we go through worth it?
You know what? For me, travel I got to do, I guess the thing is you never know what's going to happen in football, like you're saying. And when you get on good staffs and good teams, you'll know it. I got 2 pages in a book about the Tennessee Titans from 1999 by my name. And there's a lot of other stories that are told. You know, there was something about video or Photoshop. I was one that probably did it. So you just, you know what, it's those little things that make, you know, the grind, especially if if you're leaving your 2-year-old or your wife or something like that when you're on the road a lot, something somewhere will come back and go, yeah, okay, so why I'm doing it.
For me, it's be able to go to places I would normally go to on a regular basis. Like I got to go to Penn State for a game. I don't think I would ever go to Pennsylvania right on purpose, but for work, just be able to go to those cool places, but then just kind of experience traveling around to where you're almost kind of like a business person, but you're getting to enjoy a couple of things. It's the travel and then just hanging around with over 100 people on how they react, you know, in a particular situation, because every week is going to change. Something's going to change every week. And that's just something that just kind of keeps you on your toes, is everything's consistently changing.
I would say I would echo that statement with Gannon. I mean, the places we get to go, I mean, are places that not a lot of people would even think about going. I mean, one of my favorite places to go is Bozeman, Montana. I mean, if you go up to where the sideline film is and you just look out, I mean, you see that mountain range, and it's like, no one else is going to get to see this. And also another thing that makes it worth it is something like this. I mean, getting to meet people who are like you, who do the same thing you do, even if they do it differently or they go about it differently. It's like, okay, I have someone I can talk to and someone who knows what I'm going through and also will listen to what I'm saying about this. Like, 'cause some people, like we all bitch and moan about the job sometimes, but people be like, oh, you get to work in sports. I mean, anybody can do that. It's like, no, they can't. So being able just to talk about it with someone who's not going to judge you, that also helps make it worth it. And at the end of the day, I mean, we're all hoping to get that piece of jewelry, and that helps, but it's also dealing with our students. I mean, I got a text from a student of mine who applied for a job, when he first started to work for me, I did not think would want to do this, and who has heard me talk about this job sometimes. But knowing that you can affect someone like that who wants to go into this field, that kind of makes it worth it too.
For me, it's like places you go and experiences, but it's also relationships, like what James said too. Experiences and places you go. This has nothing to do with the video, but I was fortunate, more than my dad, I was fortunate enough to be at go to 2 Super Bowls. One was on a sideline for with my dad, and one was in the stands. And without the sports environment where it's been a part of it, you get to experience it, which most people don't get to experience. And it's unique, and it's great, it's fun. But I think that's the thing in the relationships with your students. I mean, like I said, I've had kids from other different countries, and one girl we just ended up with, she's from son of a buck, it's somewhere near Poland. And she can kind of relate to my wife a little bit, and kind of like communicate a little bit with her. And it's kind of neat. And you get like a kid was in China, and he was a GA here, and he goes, "Hey Tony, I came back from China. Here's some tea. Thank you for everything that you do for us." Or it's when bleep hits the fan, and you pull some out your butt, and it works, and all of a sudden coach go, "Thank you." I think that's what makes it worth it to me, is the relationships and experience you go through, and then finally someone just saying thank you. And then you go, okay, cool, I can enjoy the job, I can move forward. When people don't say thank you, it makes it really hard to sit in your desk and do your job. It makes it really hard. But saying thank you is what makes it worth it.
Yeah, definitely the travel. It's something most people don't get to do. So most people sit behind a desk 9 to 5, and that's what they do. At least we sit behind a desk maybe a little longer than 9 to 5, but then we get to go to Bozeman, Montana, and it's fun. It's definitely fun, and the experiences we get from it, and the relationships we build, definitely make it worth it.
Gannon, do you have anything to add? Good. Okay. I wanted to almost end it with this: is that for me personally, those who don't know my background, is that I was doing clinical research in Seattle for 4 years, and now I'm all the way in New York. So I share that same sentiment with James in living cross country. But I hated every second of the career that I was in, right, doing clinical research. And football gave me an outlet to something that changed my life, right? And video was the medium. It was the easiest way to get in and to really give you a chance to make an impact or do something pretty special that, again, like less than 1% of people on this planet get to do. And you know what? You kind of almost take it for granted every day, but whether it's for a few hours or for the whole day, you get to go wear shorts, or you get to wear a pair of sweats, right? Whether it's just for practice or for half a day, whatever your coach lets you do. But not being trapped behind that desk like a typical office worker, that made it all worth it, because every day is something different, for bad or for worse. And it's also nice to know that you can be relied on, and almost like a doctor, nobody else can do what you do, right? And that's what makes this special for all of us. So I don't know if anybody has any closing thoughts, but we're at an hour and a half now. So I just want to thank everybody for their time, their experiences. I hope this was fun for you, at least a little bit. I hope you shared a lot of great information. And I think you guys shared some awesome stuff, not just about video, but about life that people are going to watch a little bit later. I hope everybody shares the same sentiments. But thank you. That's
Thank you for having us, Jimmy.
yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks. I had to get to my car to get on the charger.
You're
Hey,
good.
I enjoyed the view of your facility. That was kind of nice watching you walk
Yeah.
out and everything
Yeah, it was
behind
kinda
you.
like
That's
a
kind of
virtual
neat.
tour.
Yeah, but Mark contributed a lot too. So you put in plenty. So look again, for people like Mark.
Yeah, I was going to try to do it from the roof, but then the storm was coming. I'm like, oh, watch it from the roof.
Especially for people like Mark, I think we can all share the same sentiment that if you're in this industry for 20 plus years, right? Thank you. Thank you for your service. I mean, more and more nowadays, like everything football related, it's getting younger and younger, right? People are getting more burnt out and more burnt out faster and faster, it seems like. So anybody that experiences this industry that long, just thank you. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate all your contributions to the industry.
And any of us that's been around long enough, our job is to teach you guys to get us kicked out. So sometimes that's not a bad thing.
All right, guys. Thank you. Much appreciated. Have a great weekend if I don't hear from you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Have a good one.